Welcome to the NHL 94 podcast, part of the CBP Media Network. This podcast is dedicated to the greatest game ever developed, where I will talk about the development of the game, tournaments and matches, our stories about NHL 94, the people that make up the NHL 94 community, the games won, lost, and the chirps that need to be heard around the world. Welcome back to another edition of the NHL 94 podcast, you 16-bit hockey fans. And today we're going to be talking to Smozoma. Gosh, I hope I pronounced that correctly because it's not an easy word, easy name that rolls off the tongue. Smozoma, how are you?
Oh, not bad. It's pretty close. Smozoma.
Smozoma. What's the genesis of this name? Because it's very unique. Is it anything to do with?
It's actually from NHL 95. It was one of my created players. I think must have been Michael Smozoma. I was just making up players. So
was he an absolute beast?
Probably as much as I could make him. You could get
Everybody
them up to
did
around
that.
90. Overall.
Everybody did that in 95. It made an absolute beast of a few players. We did the same thing, but this is not a show about me. I want to talk to you. Curious. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how it is you got into 94, because everybody's story is different and unique, and I want to hear yours.
So back in the Super Nintendo days, me and my friends would rent Super Nintendo pretty often and rent Mario World, or I think one of our favorites was Rock and Roll Racing. And I think eventually my parents realized they were spending more on Super Nintendo rentals than if they just bought us a Super Nintendo. So that Christmas, they bought me and my brother Super Nintendo and a Genesis. I thought that was a little bit weird because Genesis wasn't too popular here. But they got me a Genesis with an NHL 94. So that is where it started.
Were you a hockey fan before you got the 94?
Yeah. I used to play minor league hockey. I was a Leafs fan for, I don't know why exactly. I used to go to a French immersion school, so all my friends were Canadiens fans. But for some reason, I latched onto the Leafs. Being in Ottawa, most of the games were blacked out, so I could never actually watch my favorite team lose because they were really bad in around that 88, 89 time period.
Yeah.
Let me see. Oh yeah, so I played NHL 94 around that time. Got NHL 95. Wasn't too into it. Started PC gaming. Went to school, university, and then after graduating, I came back home. And while we were in university, we had a suite. So some roommates with a suite in a residence, and over the Christmas break, I came home and I brought my Genesis in, and then we started playing NHL 94, having a great time. Even though we're all pretty different in skill level, I think the Genesis game evens things out a little bit. So we had a lot of fun with that. And then after I graduated, just one Christmas break, I searched for NHL 94 online or on Google, found the forums. Ended up going to a different forum, which was, I think, a Tecmo forum, where a guy was doing a league where he had made a statistics system. So if you go to NHL94online.com these days, there's a statistics system. And this guy, I think his online name was Dimitri. He made one based on, I guess, what they were doing in the Tecmo community. So that was fun. That league, like a lot of early leagues, didn't finish. That one was a full 82 or 84 game season. Games being released like every week. Line changes, offsides. But yeah, we got in the playoffs and then it never ended.
That's too bad.
We never finished it.
Just curious, I don't mean to cut you off. When you were playing in school, when you brought your Genesis in and it became a hit, did you have the 4-player multi-tap by EA or some other gizmo like that you weren't able to play 2 versus 2? or were you guys just playing 1v1?
No, I didn't have that. So it was just 1v1. There were 3 of us, so we would just switch off.
That's interesting. Yeah, a lot of people had like interesting stories about how they got into it, and yours is very common, where you got it for a game and then you started playing it and going from there. So, did you play either NHL PA 93 or NHL Hockey, which is aka NHL 92?
I had rented NHLPA 93 probably on the Super Nintendo. I took the Rangers to the Cup. Sergei Nemchinov was one of my stars. So yeah, I just played that. And yeah, the wraparound goalie bug was well known even at that time. But yeah, so that was the only one I played.
Yeah, the wraparound bug, it's it's such an easy way and a very effective way of scoring goals. But were you, when you had the NHL PA 40 SNES, did the frame rate click in that it wasn't all that smooth, or because you had nothing to compare to? I'm curious.
I didn't notice.
But now, if you played it, have you played it any time in the past couple of decades? And if so, like, what's your thoughts on it after revisiting it?
So around 2010, I had some time off, so I hacked Super Nintendo 93 to add more teams. And yeah, in playing it, I realized just how slow it was, how broken it seemed to be. Like it could only play 1 or 2 sounds at the same time. So, you know, you would take a shot and the music would stop. The menu would, in the code, the menu would just use all the CPU, which was fine at that time. You didn't need to worry about cooling.
It wasn't optimized very well.
No, and like the goalies would always dive and you get scored on because your goalie dove out for a rebound. So I grew to not really like NHLPA 93 on the Super Nintendo. I don't know how different it is on the Sega Genesis.
It's smooth. Imagine 94. I mean, it's tweaked slightly, but it's, if you look at them side by side and you play them side by side, sure, there's no one-timers, but there is so many similarities between the two. It's fluid, and even 92, and it is a little slower, but it's still fluid. It's not, you don't. I mean, this is my opinion. I could be wrong. It doesn't seem like it's choppy because there's a low frame rate. It just seems it's fluid enough, and yeah, I had a friend that had a Genesis, and that's where I was first introduced. I saw NHL Hockey / NHL 92, and it's like, wow, this is a great game, and went from there. But either way, it's not about me. I noticed that you've been in this field, in the 94 community, for quite some time. So much so, like, you've been in it for so long that you even have a GeoCities page, and it's still up.
Yeah, I think there's GeoCities.ws, I think is what it's. I don't know. There's a few different mirrors.
It is that GeoCities.ws,
yeah,
and it's still up because I'm on it right now. I would assume that this went up in the early 2000s. What am I on the right?
Yeah. So GeoCities got killed by Yahoo in the I guess must be like 2007 maybe. What does it look like? Is it a hockey rink?
Let me share my screen if I can. Give me a second. It is the hockey rink.
Okay. Yeah. So it's probably around 2007.
Hang on. Let me share the right screen. Allow. There it is.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make it bigger, but that's it. So it's still there.
Yeah, but I have no control over it anymore. So.
Oh, geez. Okay, well, we'll have to talk to the right people to make sure you get access to it. This is a piece of the archive, the history of 94 that's got to be reclaimed. I don't know who to talk to, but we'll talk to them.
It's a sad time when GeoCities was killed. So someone came in and mirrored it all. So all of GeoCities, they stored it. I guess YouTube or Yahoo can't afford to store it, but some random person can store it. I think they just didn't want the maintenance to do the maintenance on it anymore.
Go figure. What other games do you play aside from 94? You're mentioning you were playing, or you rented Mario World, Rock and Roll Racing. I never heard of that. What other games were you into growing up?
For instance, we used to like Twisted Metal.
Oh yeah.
Rock Roll Racing is a great game. It's also on the Genesis, but it's much better on the Super Nintendo. It's I mean, it's a game where the sound really matters. So
Mhm.
so the better sound chip helps, and having extra buttons. What else did we play? I think once the PlayStation came out, I ended up doing PC gaming. Tomb Raider, Duke Nukem.
Oh, I love Duke Nukem.
I guess I'm not a huge gamer, but I've played a bunch of games. But I don't. There's none that were really to the level of NHL '94 since I graduated.
Well, there's one that I see that's associated with your name is called Heroes of the Storm. What is
Okay, yeah.
that?
So do you know League of Legends or
Yeah,
Dota?
I'm familiar of League of Legends. I've never played it, but I know of it.
So it is the Blizzard version of those. They call them a MOBA, multi I don't know, multi opponent battle arena, something like that.
Okay.
It's 5 versus 5. Uh, it comes out of Warcraft 3, where
Oh
someone,
yeah.
instead of playing Warcraft 3, they made a versus map, and the map became super popular and became a whole game mode, or game whole genre basically.
Any
Um,
similarities to StarCraft?
uh, it's not an RTS, but it actually has StarCraft characters in it because it's the Blizzard version. So they've just put all their own characters in it. So a lot of the World of Warcraft or Warcraft and World of Warcraft characters are in there. Um, uh, and Rock and Roll Racing is a Blizzard game. So people want them to put Rock and Roll Racing characters in there, but that's never been done. Um, what else is there? Diablo. They put in some Overwatch characters.
So you're a Blizzard Activision kind of guy then.
Just coincidentally, I guess.
Well,
I
you
mean,
play
back in the
Pitfall?
'90s, everyone played Blizzard games, right? Like Warcraft, StarCraft. They were some of the best games. Diablo.
Yeah.
So
Well, Pitfall. Pitfall was it's an Activision game, so they merged with Blizzard
I think
later
that's
on.
before my time.
Oh man, I played it. I'm old enough to remember
Is
playing
that an
that.
Atari game? What is
It
that from?
sure is. It sure is. One day I'm gonna bust out the Atari and start playing it once again. Did you play anything else like RBI Baseball or Tecmo Bowl?
We had an NES, so we played ice hockey. Um,
That's the one with the skinny guy and
yeah,
the medium size. Yeah, that's an awesome game.
yeah. Um,
What's your lineup? Just curious.
I don't remember. It was probably one skinny, one fat, two mediums, maybe two fats for more shot power.
Yeah. All right, let's go into some NHL 94 here because I'm curious. There's something that I mean when I go look through your history and I come across something called Blitz NHL. Sorry, this is quite old. This isn't NHL 94. It's something else. Is that right or am I wrong?
It's NHL '94. So
Okay.
I mentioned that league run by Dimitri through the Tecmo site where he had statistics, and then a year or two later, I had a job doing web development, so I learned a bit about databases and how to make a website pull from a database. Um, so me and my friend Dennis, Canadian Dennis, he's been to a few of the Connect 94 tournaments. So I remade that database website statistic thing that Dimitri had done on my own. So me and Dennis, we would play NHL '94 on his modded Xbox, and we would at the end of the game we would save state, upload it into the website. So I had this website to do the statistics, and then I wanted to fix the the weight bug, I wanted to make a league with the weight bug fixed. So it's probably been covered on this on the podcast before. The Genesis
No.
version. Oh,
Well,
the
I mean,
weight bug, it's
the
come up.
fixing of it. No, I mean, I would like to hear how it is you went to fix it, because that's something that's interesting. But continue with your story before we get to the weight bug stuff.
All right. So, in the Genesis game, the checking. I've always said it was reversed, but new information has come out about that. But I'll just say it's reversed, that the light players could check the heavy players. And I wanted to make a league with that fixed. At the time, I didn't know how to fix it, so I just made a league where the heavy players were light. And I think I started a draft for a draft league. But it felt really weird. So like a player like Lindros, who's a big guy, he was now as light as Fleury, and Fleury was heavy, which would be okay, except that the Genesis game also factors in momentum and I guess inertia. So suddenly Lindros was incredibly quick, not just an effective checker. He was much faster, much quicker to accelerate, and Fleury was now like a slug out there, which felt strange. And then a guy showed up on the forums called Tony H, and he posted a hacking tutorial for how to trace through the game and find bits of code you want to change. I think his example was how to stop the clock or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And in university, I did computer systems engineering, and I'd actually done a class that was the same CPU as the Sega Genesis. So I had a bit of a head start on this hacking tutorial that he posted, but he gave me the tools I needed to start investigating it. So I followed this tutorial, quickly tracked down the line of code, or the instruction where the problem was, or at least where I thought it was. And I reversed one of the calculations where it was comparing the weights of the two players, where it was subtracting one weight from the other player. And I just switched it. So it subtracted the second player from the first player instead of the other way around, which effectively fixed the bug as far as we knew. Again, new information has come out since Chaos has been looking into it. And traced it a little bit more, learned a bit more about how it is, but it was a fix that worked and felt right, even though it's not the correct fix we've found out this year. So now, having fixed the bug, I had a weight bug fixed wrong that felt right, instead of the one where I just reversed or changed all the player weights. I think we redrafted the teams, and this was the Blitz League. The idea was that I called it Blitz because I wanted to do like 4 seasons a year, which never happened. So I wanted to be quick, so I called it the Blitz League.
Right.
And I think it was the first league we had with promotion relegation. So in the classic league on NHL94online.com, I was always like right on the verge of the playoffs. So I wanted a league where maybe I could actually compete a bit better. And I think just generally, we had guys who would win like 2 games a season. In GDL was the Gens Draft League, was another big league. So I thought that wasn't a great situation. So I made a smaller league. I think the first season we ran with maybe 19 teams. So it was like 9 teams in one league, the A League, 10 teams in the other league, B League. I think I finished second in the B League and got promoted to A, then missed the playoffs a bunch of years in a row. So I didn't really solve my problem of always being a little bit outside the playoff picture against the top players. So yeah, it was a draft league that I think I ran it for 7 or 8 seasons, and then some people took over for a few years after that. Yeah, it was a pretty good experience running that.
So the weight bug fix, I'm just looking at how it's being used right now, because every game I play online, an exhibition 2v2, I think even 2v2, um, the uh, the classic leagues, they're using all the code from Mark Lesser that has the bug in it. The weight bug is still in it when I'm playing Genesis. Why isn't it that the bug fix is picked up more by the community? Because if you look at it on the surface, it should say, like, it indicates to me that's the way the game should be played. Lindros being heavy, but he's able to check, rather than Flurry checking Lindros all the time, which doesn't make sense. But for some reason, it's not resonating with the community. People like to play the classic version with the bug in it. So what's your thoughts on why it is that people are not adopting the bug fix to the same degree where it should be adopted?
I think so. The classic league is, by definition, the original game, so they run without it. There are leagues that use it. I'm pretty sure the CDL, the Chaos Draft League, uses the weight bug fix. There was one called Velocity League. That was actually like the follow-up to Blitz. So the person who took over Blitz wanted to change a bunch of the rules, so I requested that they change the name since it lost some of the original character that I tried to maintain.
But is this the exception rather than the norm?
No, I feel like it's probably pretty evenly split among the leagues. But I don't do a lot of leagues, playing them, but just observationally, I feel like there are enough that use it. I don't think it's too rare.
Are you big on exhibition matches or ranked?
No, even when I was a player, I kind of had I don't do graphics when I edit ROMs. So people would ask me, "How do you do this? How do you do that?" Like, I don't do graphics. And the other one was, I don't do exes.
That's fine. So I guess you're not going to play me then.
That's another reason probably why I needed my own league to try to make the playoffs.
That's fun. Now I want to go back to the statistics website, because I think this is something that I could be wrong, but was the stuff done in that adopted in the NHL 94 website? Because when I play in a league and then I save the ROM, then I could upload it to the website, and it extracts all the information and it uploads it, and so the standings are adjusted, the scoring plays are entered in. So did your statistics website have anything to do with that particular side of things, where when we upload upload the save states, they get inputted into the website?
It works the same way. I don't remember if I gave my code to Chaos and he adapted it, or if he'd already had his own system, and maybe I gave him my code for certain aspects that he might need. Like, I think I added a plus-minus statistic to the game, so I probably gave him the code that I had done for processing the plus-minus statistic. So yeah, I don't remember if much of my code is on NHL94online.com. It's a different programming language. So mine was a Microsoft thing, and theirs is PHP, I think.
All right. Well, you're a pretty active member in the King of 94 tournament. You seem to be involved in one way, shape, or another. Like, I want to hear what it is that you do with it, because your name seems to be somehow tied to it. So I'm curious, what's your role in the King of 94 tournament?
So in the first one, I think more of the people running it were Mikey McBrien and Halifax. I think Chaos did quite a bit. For the first one, I think all I did was I came up with the format, which was 4 sets of 16, and the top 4 from each set would go on to another 16 bracket, best of 3s. And I made a spreadsheet, to like an Excel spreadsheet that you could enter scores in, that tracked all the scores in the teams. And then the second one in Vegas, I don't remember what I did too much in that one. But after that, like starting in the third one at least, it was kind of like a me and Halifax working together thing. So I usually bring my laptop and do the streaming ever since the Vancouver one, which was the third one. Um, yeah. So like in the last one, I drove down with a car full of 4 or 5 TVs, maybe 12 systems. Um,
Imagine you got stopped
oh,
along the way and a police officer took a look.
yeah.
What is this? It's back in the 90s, buddy. Did you time travel?
Who did you steal all this stuff from?
That's awesome. Did you ever miss a 94 tournament? I mean, no, I know some were remote due to COVID restrictions, but did you attend them all?
The King of 94 ones, I've played in them all, or I've played in all the live ones, and the online ones I just streamed them.
Okay. Any online tournaments aside from King of 94 you're involved with or that you're a part of?
Online tournaments or the or live ones or
Either or.
these days, no. I did run one. I did run a I don't think we'd call it K94, but I ran a tournament in Ottawa last year.
I saw that, and I didn't want to say it because it just in case, but yeah, I want to hear like the Ottawa tournament, how it went and everything.
It didn't go great. We were supposed to have someone who was going to bring like 3 or 4 friends, or another guy who was going to come with his family. So I thought we would have maybe 15 players. I think we ended up with 6, and we ended up just playing the Super Nintendo one. We probably should have just done 2 smaller tournaments, one Super Nintendo, one Sega. But we met one new player, and then a few community guys came out. Bob Kudelski was there. I don't forget what name he goes by. His name online, but his name's Hans. He came out too, and my friend Dennis. We met a new guy who came out. I forget his name, unfortunately. He's a good guy though. Yeah, so I think, well, definitely Bob Kudelski won the Super Nintendo tournament, and we didn't play the Sega Genesis one, which I feel like we probably should have just run 2 smaller tournaments, and everyone could have played in them all. Yeah. But I think I just didn't want to alienate the one guy who came out to play Super Nintendo by forcing him to play Genesis. But it was a good time. It was just a little bit disappointing that there weren't that many people.
Is this going to be something done again, or is that a one and done thing?
I was intending to run it again, but I don't know. I ran it pretty late in the year. I'd probably run it earlier if I did. So I would have to run it in the summer probably.
It was done in October, November of last year?
Yeah. My original idea was to run it, I think, in late July or August, and to recruit people to go to the King of 94 in Toronto. But I really didn't have time to run it. But the wheels were in motion, so I ran it afterwards. But if I were to do it again, I would try to do it before, like in the summer.
So you've played 94 on the SNES, just from the story you said about what are your thoughts on the SNES version of the game?
I used to be a big detractor of it. I've come around. It's still pretty fun. In fact, over here, you would have seen earlier in the video my Duke of 94 trophy that I won at the last King of 94, which is the second tier tournament after getting eliminated from the King tournament.
And there's the Puke of 94, which is below that, right?
Yeah.
I'm gunning for that one, by the way. I'm going to try very hard to.
It's a good trophy.
I just want to do something in the Puke side of things. I think that's my skill level. See if I could raise some hell, but we'll see. But so, given a preference, what would you prefer to play, the Genesis or the?
I still like the Genesis game. Usually people prefer the one that they grew up with.
Yeah.
The thing I found difficult on the Super Nintendo one, other than just the lack of experience when the actual good players destroyed me, I had a lot of trouble with the body checking, because in the Genesis one, I tend to turn away from checks, so they'll bounce off me, and I would do that on the Super Nintendo, and they would just knock me down every single time. So it was an adjustment. I can't use that tendency I have.
If you have to rank yourself, in the Genesis version out of 10, in terms of like 0 being like your piss poor player and 10 being your godly level, what would you rank yourself on both systems?
So I don't know about the numbers. Usually we have like an A, B, C rating system, like our the Classic League thing. I won the B League once. I probably didn't really belong there, but I won it with Toronto, so that's my favorite team. And then I retired from the Classic League. I think if I remember correctly, I beat King Raph in that, but he was Tampa Bay. So
What a disparity between.
He was kind of doing the same thing as me, where take a lower tier team. Although I took a mid tier team, he took expansion team. We both kind of conquered B League, and then he's going on to bigger and better things in the A League, and I just retired.
What's your preferred starting lineup for the Leafs?
Gilmore, Borshevsky, usually Anderson, I think. Clark, I think I'm going to get chances with him. On defense, it's probably Gill and McCown.
Ellidoff.
Elliot's too untrustworthy. I had him in the Blitz League a couple times, and he would just hang out at the red line. So a lot of breakaways. Yeah, you had AJ on. What did you did the Norris division last week?
We sure did.
So he probably brought out John Cullen as a starter, or one of your options. I would never
one
have
of the
considered
reserves.
him, but yeah. I don't know if I've ever brought him on.
Andrew Chuck was also listed there, but he was just so
he's
low on the
so
list.
Slow. Yeah,
he's kind of like a heavyweight.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what sets him apart from Clark when he's that much heavier, which makes him that much slower. I think his shot's not as hard, a little bit more accurate, but I think I favor power versus accuracy. Unlike AJ, I think AJ will take accuracy over power.
Now, I didn't get to hear your self-assessment on the SNES side of things. Where would you rank yourself there?
I am the Duke, so I'm the defending Duke. So that's where I am. Again, not really an A-level player there. So that's probably a solid B, whereas on the Genesis, I'm more of an A/B, like a B+, A-.
Well, if you had to take a step back, or even look at it like through a third-party lens, which of the two would you think you have a better chance of moving up quicker? Like, are you peaked in a Genesis, or do you still think you have room for growth there? Or on the SNES side, do you think you have a lot more growth over there, or you think you're peaked on that side?
The first time I played the Sega version was at one of Halifax's tournaments in Saskatoon,
Mm-hmm.
and we played some games, practice games, and I was doing pretty well. I was feeling pretty good about myself. However, once I got to the actual tournaments, I'm not sure if they were taking it easy on me or something. But I think the Super Nintendo game is more reaction based. I think my reaction times are all right, so I probably have some room to grow there. On the Genesis, again, my I don't play XZ. I don't do XZs is holding me back. So I think I had this plan last year where I would practice up a bit, try to be more of a threat in the King of '94, but I still haven't really had the chance to practice that. My weakness, I think, is finishing. So usually on breakaways, I'm not that great. I lost some games to Thrill House, and I noticed a big difference there was his finishing was if he got close to the goalie, he would score. Whereas me, it's a little bit different. It's more 50-50. Similar against KG Man, eliminated me, or he knocked me out of the winner's side in King 94 last year. I think our gameplay was like our chances were pretty similar, but if he got close to the goalie, he would score. And if I tried to do some manual goalie, he would just make a fool of me. So I I think if I spent more time working on my deeks, working on my manual goalie, I could move up a bit in the Genesis. So I think I have room to get better in both.
No,
And
if you want to get a punching bag on the Genesis side of things, hit me up. I'll be happy to
yeah,
be that lovable loser to play against you.
I was thinking of Dan set up that Elo thing in the Discord. I was thinking of working my way like from the bottom to the top, see how I could do. Start messaging people towards the bottom.
That's me. I'm
Get
there.
some, yeah.
I'm near the bottom. So yeah, so you're looking at one of the one of the guys over there, one of the horse's asses, so to speak.
See if I can get my way back up there. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I gotta find some time to get some games in. Try to this last year in King 94 was the first year I finished out of the top 10. So I've got to get my way back in the top 10.
Got to get reps in, and you got to get reps.
Yeah, I got to get some practice in.
As many different opponents
things.
as possible.
People are getting better.
Yeah. Now I want to transition to NHL Rewind. I want to hear your thoughts on this because for whatever reason, it had some steam initially, but not many people seem to be playing it from what I gather. But I want to hear your thoughts on it, and would you deem it to be a success?
So Rewind was, I guess, was it 2020? I think it was 2020 when it came out.
Around there.
Came out around October, I guess, whenever the game comes out for that year. I think it was late that year because of COVID, so I think everything was delayed. It was pretty confusing because it was a pre-order bonus. So you had to buy the full game for like 100 Canadian, roughly. And I think a lot of people who bought it didn't know how to get it. So, they thought it was a game mode, so it would just be there in the game. But you had to, I don't know if you had to enter a code or something, or you had to.
Was it for both systems? I didn't mean to interrupt. Was for both for the PS4 and the Xbox Series? I forget what they called it back then. Series 1 X. I don't know.
Yeah, so I have an Xbox One, and it's on that. I don't know if the Series X or S or whatever. It must be fully on both.
I have the new one, and it's on it, but because I have, Game Pass Ultimate, and it's free on that.
Okay.
So yeah, it does work on the newest Xbox. I have a PS5. I don't have it on there, but anyway, didn't mean to interrupt. So I guess that code was applicable, I guess, to both systems.
So it is actually the original game code. So it's Sega Genesis code for the Motorola CPU. So it wouldn't actually run on your Xbox or your PlayStation. It runs in an emulator.
Yeah, that's how it runs. So they're running an emulator through there. It's running it in there.
Yeah, and they have I think they call it Arsenal. They have this technology that they use to wrap the game, and they can modify things while the game is playing. So one thing we noticed is they added skin tones.
They did.
Yeah, which is kind of impossible to do if you were to just modify the game, like in the ROM. Or maybe it is possible, but we're pretty sure that it's part of the their extra layer that they put on top of the game and change things. I think that the big missed opportunity is you couldn't play online. You could play using PlayStation, I think it's called PlayShare or SharePlay, which is basically a screen sharing mode where one person is playing the game on their system, the other person is playing a streamed version of it. You couldn't play it all online on the Xbox. So, our hope was that it would have real online play with lobbies and people would really get into it. But you had, because of the way that share play thing works, you basically have to know the person you're going to be playing against. I think, Halifax made a community for it. But then a few months later, PlayStation shut down those communities, that feature. So you really just had to know someone. or meet them through Discord and connect up that way. So there was no real way for people outside the community to just start playing people and really get excited for the game. It's basically they already had to be in the community to get to play online.
It's a big missed opportunity by EA. EA has been dropping the ball quite a bit in the past decade and change. If you look at NHL, the series, Madden is another one. They don't seem to be with it. These microtransactions is what they seem to love, and it makes them money. It keeps their shareholders very happy, but as a player, it's not very good. Unfortunately, it's too bad.
Yeah, I think it's tough because different people want different things from it. So there are people who are like, although the uniforms are wrong, this game is garbage. So, whereas other people they want the actual gameplay to be better. So you have different people pushing the game, pushing for different things. But yeah, I think, well, I don't know, a lot of people still play it. I haven't played it much. But yeah, for Rewind, it's too bad that they couldn't get it to work online. I think I understand that the game's not made for online play. So even when we play it online, it's a bit of a struggle. So if you have disconnections on Xbox or PlayStation, people just don't accept that. I don't think they would accept it. Whereas we manage, we just reconnect. Yeah, so it's just not built for that. And I guess they didn't want to try. I was hoping that it would make enough money that they would go back for a second round, update the rosters again. Maybe it would sell a bit more, and then do the work to make it net play compatible. But it doesn't seem to be happening.
It's too bad. But something though that is not too bad, actually pretty darn good, is you were involved with rectifying the weight bug in Rewind, correct?
Yeah. So the night that the game released, I wanted to have the first video online of Rewind, to get people to our YouTube channel, the NHL 94 community YouTube channel. So I figured out, I think it went to midnight or whatever time it would release. I figured out how to install it. I had a stream set up. I made I think it was like first look at NHL 94 Rewind, something like that, title like that. And I was just kind of going through, looking at, there's an extra menu option here for credits. And I went through and I started scrolling through the credits, and there was my name.
Nice.
I had no idea that it would be there. And I figure the reason it's there is because they did fix the weight bug in the game. So they probably used my version of it. I don't know if they used anything else that I had done. That was the only one I can think of. So I think.
Are you getting royalties for this? Because you deserve something for every sale of the game. You've made an improvement, no matter it's it's got to be recognized, and you got to be compensated for that. So maybe we got to start a grassroots campaign to get you.
I was happy enough to see my name in there. That was quite a surprise.
That's awesome in an EA game. This is the big time. So to get on there is pretty darn cool. So, and anything else? Were you involved in anything else with Rewind? Any other improvements?
As far as I know, that's the only thing of mine that they used.
All right, let's go to something else. Still in 94, but no longer Rewind. And I'm curious because you haven't said anything about this. I'm curious if you are a player in this type of mode. 2v2. Are you a 2v2 guy?
Back when I played, I liked 2v2. I wasn't one of the I forgot the slang that we would use. There were names for people who play lots of 2-on-2, but it's pretty fun. I think it's actually, it has the most potential as an esport, because it's a little bit like Rocket League, or Rocket League is a little bit like NHL 94 2-on-2.
Yeah,
but with 3 dimensions. So at the King 94 tournaments, we tried to make 2-on-2 happen. We've done it a couple times, streamed it, but it's hard to make it fit in, especially now. The new location, we don't have quite as much time, so we didn't do it last year. This year we are doing it. So King of 94, 2024, I think it's the 9th year, King 94-9. We are doing 2-on-2. Yeah, I think it's great. It's pretty fun. Lots of wacky stuff happens. Lots of little strategies going on.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely. I've got my first taste of it online. I've played with it 2v2 back in the day in the cartridge format, so it wasn't a modified ROM. It was just simply what came out of the box for Genesis, and it was a lot of fun then, and it's still a lot of fun now. Now, if you are given an opportunity, see somebody has two systems here, loaded up with two different ROMs with a 5v5, whatever you could be, a draft league or a classic, whatever you want, or 2v2, what would you prefer to play and why?
I think I would play 2v2. Like usually after the tournaments, we'll go play 2-on-2. It's I think you get 4 people playing at once. There's a lot more camaraderie, a lot more laughs to be had.
It's laid back, isn't it? The type of style, like you're just I prefer it. It's a lot of fun.
I think I feel like we need like a 2-on-2 streaming event every week. People could get into it. But again, the bad connections are a bit of a problem.
Is there any way to improve on it? Not the connection, but just in general, the overall gameplay for 2-on-2.
2-on-2. I think it would be interesting to have. So I think the ROMs for 2-on-2 are equal teams.
Yes,
some of the earlier one. I think the early ROM, there were 2 different types of players. Like your center had certain attributes, and your winger had slightly different attributes. And now I think they're all the same. But I think it would be interesting to have more variety of players, like almost like the skinny, the medium, and the fat from ice hockey. So when you load it up into a 2-on-2 game, you might go into edit lines, which crashes the game unless you have a certain fix added to it. But you could you could load up on like a Brendan Shanahan style player with a big shot, not much mobility. So I think that could be fun. It could add some strategy, a little bit like a MOBA. So the MOBA, we're going back to the Heroes of the Storm or League of Legends, where you have different characters. In the 5-on-5 game, this is a 2-on-2 game, but you might have, your centerman might pick a speedster, your winger might pick either a playmaker or a shooter. That could add an interesting dimension to it that would make it a little bit more strategic, a little bit more interesting to watch. That you would there's a decision there that you can analyze if watching it or playing it.
Yeah, rather than a cookie cutter solution where you just load up the game and everybody's the same and that's that. At least there's some variety in that and some strategic and some strategies you mentioned. Now, in terms of the connection, because I asked you, could you improve it? I think you initially were thinking about improving the connection. I want to pick your brain on that. Is there any way for people to improve their connection, so to speak, or even within the code? Is there something that can be done to just make things better and less laggy?
Probably the RetroArch rollback is as good as it's going to get. I did discover that with the Chilera version, which was the peer-to-peer Chilera running in gens, the issue there was that if a packet was missed, there was no mechanism to resend the packet. So I had started to make a wrapper around the net play for that would just resend those packets and prevent those desyncs. But I ended up never finishing that, and then we moved on to RetroArch, which had a better system for that.
Chilera, I've been talking to Blizzard. Yeah, I've been talking to Blizzard, and he provided me a reborn version that I'm going to test out in the next little while. I'm not sure if you're familiar.
I think I saw it in Discord that they were making a new version of Chilera.
Yeah,
but I don't know anything about it.
I have it. I still have to figure it out and just put it through the paces. That, and also there's a new version of RetroArch, 1.17 or so. I can't remember the version number, whatever it is, but I also have that in my queue of things to test out. So 1.17 beta, that's it.
I think there's a community effort to test the new RetroArch these days. So I don't know when exactly, but eventually, I think we're on 1.10 right now. So we'll move on to 1.17 at some point this year, perhaps.
And further muddying the waters is I don't use Windows or Mac. I'm running Linux. Everything I run is on Linux, even all the emulators. So I think I may be a bit of a guinea pig when it comes to this stuff. So I'm curious to see if it runs and how well it runs.
I don't know if I mean, currently we provide packages for Windows and Mac, but I guess if you're already running on Linux and able to play people, then I guess our there's no issue. Like, we used to have an issue where you couldn't play Genesis between Mac and Windows because of a bug or a poor design decision that was made by the guy who does the net play. Chaos fixed that, so we have a custom emulator core to get around that. But I guess there's no such issue with the Linux one.
Well, there's 3 different versions. So the custom core, there's one for Windows, there's one for Mac. Am I correct?
I don't know. I don't know. I would figure it would just be one that's made. Oh, I guess you would have to compile it for each of them.
And I have one for Linux. I've been provided that one, and that one runs.
Okay, and that's fine. From Chaos?
Blizzard provided me this. Who provided it to him? I have no clue.
Okay, yeah, I don't know.
And
okay, so that's good that we would, even in the hopefully the next version, we have a Linux one as well.
Yeah, for people out there that are working on this, make sure there's a Linux version, or else I'm going to be SOL.
And it would be good to get like an Android version. People wanted to play on Android, but no one seems to want to actually try it. So people show up on the forum saying, "How do I play this on Android?" And then they never try.
Well,
I tried it once, they couldn't get it to work.
You can play with the standard emulator on Android, but in terms of like online play,
I tried to connect between Android and Windows, and that wasn't working.
Yeah,
not initially. Like, probably the version was slightly mismatched. I don't know if there was that same bug that we had before. I think I probably tried Super Nintendo because it wouldn't have that problem. Try to eliminate some of the potential problems, but it wasn't working. But I think it was because the version wasn't quite the same. It was a 1.10, but I think it wasn't exactly the same.
All right. Well, you know what? We're getting close to an hour, so I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I have some rapid fire questions I want to toss over to you, just like they do at the All-Star game when they feed you pucks and hopefully you could score them all. Let's see what you do here. So, okay, let's start this one off because I think this one's a fun one given your proximity in where you live. Is Ottawa a viable choice in any game matchup in NHL 94?
So I'm probably a good person to ask this because I like to choose the expansion teams in King of 94. So yeah, I like Ottawa. They're they're not great. Tampa Bay is better. I think most people would say San Jose is better.
Oh yeah.
Florida has the better goalie, and they do have some at least a better one really good defenseman. Ottawa's Norm McIver though, and they're a pretty light team, so they match up pretty well against Anaheim. But yeah, they're one of the bottom 3 teams for sure. But I think most people aren't too familiar with the expansion teams, so that's a bit of my advantage in King of 94.
Familiarity.
And that's how. Okay. So in the Vegas King of 94, that was the first time I played Super Nintendo. In that tournament, so to work my way through the round robin, I just chose expansion team matchups the whole time, went to overtime. I think I had 3 or 4 overtimes out of the 6 games. Managed to win probably 3 out of 6 games, and then I don't think I got too much farther than that. But I played them in the play-in. That's why I had so many overtimes. But yeah, so you take the expansion teams, you can surprise people because they're not sure how to play with those teams. Bad passing, slow skating.
You're giving away your secrets.
Yeah, everyone knows now. I think
Okay.
my one win against AJ in a tournament might have been an expansion team matchup. So that's like the only time in 20 years I think I've ever beat AJ.
That's just kryptonite, I guess, and that's your strength. All right, most OP, most like overpowered team in the game.
So I think Detroit is a little bit better than Chicago, unless you get, I guess, the home advantage. Chicago at home is pretty tough, but I think you have more options with Detroit, even though the goaltending's not so good.
All right. Okay, your life is depending on somebody winning a game in NHL 94. This is one game they have to win, and you continue living. It's Genesis 5-on-5. Which is the person that you're going to have representing you? Name the guy that is going to win for you.
So one game, if it's like a series, definitely AJ, because AJ learns as he goes. I think even a single game, you gotta go AJ or playbacks, because I don't know how good he is now, but I know at his peak he was the best. So I guess if he's coming to the next King 94, we'll see if it's AJ or playbacks or premium, whatever his name is now.
Who would you rather have in your starting lineup? Scott Mellenby or Marty McSorley?
Oh, so I have a bit of a story about Scott Mellenby. So I mentioned Dennis and I used to play on his Xbox, and we would upload the stats. And I remember once we were Florida. We played every single team against every other team. And I don't know which matchup it was, but one of us was Florida, and we got a breakaway with him at the red line, a huge breakaway, and whoever was the one getting breakawayed on was like, "Oh no!" And then he didn't even make it to the blue line before people caught up to him. So we always laugh about that he's incredibly slow. But yeah, I think I would take McSorley.
There's some value there with him being so
You can
aggressive on
CB check with him.
Yeah.
And he's pretty slow, but on defense, sometimes that's okay because you can at least line up your checks a bit better.
Yeah. What's the craziest thing you ever saw in NHL 94?
Oh, the craziest thing. So one is in one of the King 94s, I was playing Raph, and I was just getting the best luck. He was getting the worst luck. And there was one time where I just dove out with Grant Fuhr and dove from my goal all the way almost to the blue line practically, like all the way to the I guess the hash marks on the side to intercept a puck, which was just ridiculous, a ridiculous play to do. And I think there was a crowd around and everyone was going, "Whoa." So it was a kind of ridiculous thing that just showed how the NHL gods were smiling on me that day. What other crazy things? Going back to that league with me and Dennis on his Xbox, I remember him tying the game with a breakaway with Ron Wilson against Patrick Waugh with zero seconds on the clock. That was a good one. I don't know. There's a clip on, I think it's on our Twitch. It might be on our YouTube. The game between Clockwise and Mr. Pow that they scored. It went back and forth a couple goals in the last minute. They scored with zeros on the clock. There was a bit where the Penguins had the puck rolling towards the empty net, and they knocked the net off.
That's awesome.
So that was a great thing. Oh, and the Coke play that was in, I think, one of the Sochels or in the online King 94s, where Coke, the Super Nintendo player, A button. Well, in Genesis, it's the A button. He flipped the puck up in the air, cut through the defense, grabbed the puck as it landed, and scored. So that was a pretty great play.
Self pass. That's awesome. All right.
Enjoy a lot because it's it's a pretty fun game. Lots of funny things happen. I think it's part of the appeal is that it's not just a serious game. There's a lot of funny stuff. Big checks where players go flying.
Part of the charm. Hey, you have a breakaway. You're on a breakaway. Just you and a goalie. What player like Bure McGillney are you going to use, and why? It doesn't have to just be Bure McGillney. You can pick anybody in the league, but why would you choose that guy?
I think I'd go Yzerman. I was in a league, which was it was an NHL 91 league, I think, that Clockwise ran. I had Detroit, so I had Yzerman. I don't know how different he was from the NHL 94 Yzerman, but I had some good breakaways, and I would pass shot it right inside the corner. So I think Yzerman's good agility, good stick handling, good passing works pretty well for that. As long as they don't realize I'm gonna as long as they don't realize I'm gonna pass shot
it. So who's the most overrated player in the game?
Overrated. In terms of the in-game rating, probably some of the overweight players like Lindros.
Lemieux.
Yeah. Oh, the Lemieux, because the 100 rating. But he's.
What about like overrated in terms of what people overrate the guy?
That's a bit tougher. We were seeing this showed up in the Discord chat that Benoit Hogue in the CDL, his draft position has fallen every single season.
Yeah.
And I had him in the Blitz League for many seasons, and yeah, I didn't do too well. So maybe he's a bit overvalued. Well, maybe 15 years later, people are coming to the conclusion that he's not that great. And maybe some of the second tier goalies like Fuhr, Potvin, might get taken a bit early when there's just such a huge gap between Raw and Belfour and those other goalies.
Yeah. And who's the most underrated player in your opinion that people don't recognize as being a great player to play with, but he is?
Stéphane Lebeau on Montreal. He just always seems to get it done. A bunch of clips of him from that league that Dennis and I used to run, where he would run with the goalie and the puck would flip over the goalie and into the net. Other underrated players. In terms of like the in-game rating, probably Klima. Klima has some kind of magic awareness attributes where he always gets breakaways. But in terms of popularity, yeah, I'm not sure. I guess Lebeau. I like Lebeau.
Yeah, he's a weight bug guy. Plus, he's got really good accuracy, so he's a good guy to have in the middle. Could skate pretty good. Yeah, he's a good guy. Most overrated team in the game that people think that they're much better than what they are.
I don't have much luck with Buffalo. I think Buffalo, the chemistry can be pretty off in that league with Dennis and I. That we had statistics. They didn't do too well. Dallas, on the other hand, pretty similar team in that it's just a lot of fast guys. They were pretty good. But so I used to always prefer to take Vancouver over Buffalo when people would call that matchup. But I think I started paying attention to the statistics, and I wasn't doing very well with that. So I started taking Buffalo more recently. And like I mentioned, that Fuhr dive play, so I'd chosen Buffalo in that one as well. So it was overrated.
I have one that comes to mind.
Calgary. Calgary's tough to. They seem good. They have lots of choices. But what's your choice?
The Rangers. I know they're not a top tier team. They're far from it. But if you look at their players individually, they are, they're great players. Not great. They're very good players. Tikkanen, very good. Gartner, very good. Leach, very good. Zubov, Patrick, very good. Messi, Amante, Nemchinov, Turcotte, whatever. They're very good. But collectively, they suck. And it's not just the goalie. They just suck. For whatever reason, for me, they suck.
If you can get Gartner going, he's pretty deadly. I know Corbett KB demolished me in the Long Island tournament in the finals with that. But I think past him, Messier's not great. Tikkanen's not great. You throw someone like Graves in just for a light guy. Yeah, you have to remember to switch the goalie. I think the backup goalie is a little bit better.
Yeah, Van Beesbrook is the starter, I think. So you have to go with Richter.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Just, marginally better. Yeah,
Rangers are
kind of down there in that, Pittsburgh area.
Which is too bad. And the very next year they won the cup, which is funny. I guess that's it for the rapid fire, but I have one last question before we wrap things up. If you could change one thing in NHL 94 to make it better, what would it be?
I guess put better net play code into it so everyone could play it.
Well, I agree, because there's been some times where it's just been, and it could be my side, just bloody awful, that code. But well, Smozoma, thank you very much for coming on. Any final words before we sign off?
No, it's good. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you coming on. And with that being said, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and make sure you have your controllers plugged in and your stick on the ice.